It's just another Tuesday morning. You're scrolling through your phone when a headline jolts you awake. White House ultimatum, Delhi and Ottawa given 48 hours to comply or face economic consequences. The world holds its breath. In Ottawa, phones ring off the hook. In New Delhi, emergency meetings are called. The US, the global heavyweight, has thrown down the gauntlet, putting two key partners in the hot seat. This isn't just news, it's a global drama. A high-stakes poker game where national pride and economic survival are on the line. The details of the demand don't matter. What matters is the question, will they bow? Canada and India, both democracies, both allies, are staring down American pressure, but their responses reveal everything about their place in the world. For Canada, defying the US is like arguing with your landlord, your boss, and your biggest customer all at once. For India, bowing to external pressure isn't just bad policy, it's a betrayal of its very identity. Canada's economic ties to the US are deep and complicated. The pressure to comply is immense. India, forged in anti-colonial struggle, invented non-alignment to avoid being anyone's pawn. This fundamental difference sets the stage for a fascinating geopolitical showdown. Remember when the US called Canadian steel and aluminum a national security threat? Suddenly, Canada was the villain. Trudeau talked tough, called the tariffs insulting, and slapped retaliatory tariffs on US goods. It was a trade war, Canadian style. But the bravado didn't last. Over 75% of Canada's exports go to the US. That's not just a partnership, it's a lifeline. The tariffs hurt. Canadian businesses screamed. Jobs were at risk. Ottawa's tough talk faded, replaced by urgent negotiations. The USMCA replaced NAFTA. Canada made concessions, especially in its protected dairy market. The US wanted more access, and after a fight, Canada had to say yes. Canada's economic dependency was its Achilles heel. The lesson? You can't win a trade war against your biggest customer. Canada's sovereignty has limits when faced with determined American pressure. Ottawa can make noise, but at the end of the day, it must protect its economy. The choice principle defiance or pragmatic survival. Pragmatism won. Canada bent rather than broke, securing stability but reinforcing its junior partner status. It was a compromise born of necessity. When Washington pushes, Ottawa eventually has to give. This episode defined the limits of Canadian resistance. Canada's response is shaped by economic reality, not just political will. The world saw the boundaries of Canadian sovereignty. In the end, Canada chose survival over confrontation. Now let's pivot to New Delhi. India is a different beast. Its entire political psyche is built on strategic autonomy. Independence is its core identity. India spent 2 centuries fighting colonial rule. That memory shapes every foreign policy decision. When foreign powers make demands, alarm bells ring in New Delhi. For Indian policymakers, giving in to US pressure would be a historical failure. Economically, India isn't dependent on a single market. The US is important, but less than 20% of India's exports go there. India's massive domestic market and global trade ties give it options and leverage. If the US squeezes, India can lean on other partners. It has a safety net Canada lacks. Politically, India sees itself as a civilization, not just a country. It's a founding member of the non-aligned movement, balancing ties with the US and Russia. India buys Russian oil, refuses to condemn Moscow, and maintains its own path. This balancing act is unthinkable for Canada, but for India, it's business as usual. Strategic autonomy means being friends with everyone, follower of none. India's response to pressure is shaped by history, economic resilience, and a refusal to be anyone's pawn. It's not about defiance for show, it's about protecting hard-won independence. India's leaders know the cost of subservience. When the US comes knocking, India's answer is never automatic compliance, it's a negotiation, not a surrender. Canada is a system insider. Born from the British Empire thriving in the American-led order, it's a founding member of NATO, the G7, and a pillar of the Western establishment. Canada's foreign policy is about working within the system, upholding its rules and benefiting from its stability. Its influence comes from being a reliable partner. Aligning with Washington is a strategic choice. In exchange for some autonomy, Canada gets security and prosperity. Publicly breaking with the US is a last resort. It threatens Canada's place in the world. India, by contrast, is a system shaper, sometimes an outsider. It co-founded the non-aligned movement, refusing to be a pawn in superpower games. India's goal: reform the world order, not just fit in. It's a free agent, maximizing its options and refusing to let any one country dictate its destiny. Let's look at the numbers. Canada's economy is deeply integrated with the US. $2 billion in goods and services cross the border daily. For many provinces, their biggest trading partner isn't another Canadian province, it's the US state next door. This is total economic symbiosis. The blessing? Decades of prosperity. The curse? Massive vulnerability. When the US uses economic leverage, Canada has few alternatives. Disruption to US access is an existential threat. This reality limits Canada's foreign policy options. India's story is different. With a GDP nearing $4 trillion and a huge internal market, it's an economic powerhouse. Its trade is spread globally: UAE, China, EU, ASEAN. The US is its largest export market, but less than 20% of the total. Disruption would hurt, but not cripple India. Economic diversification is India's superpower. India can absorb shocks and resist pressure. When the US threatens tariffs, India can retaliate, knowing American companies need the Indian market. This balance gives India confidence to pursue its own interests. Beyond trade, let's talk military and financial independence. Canada is a loyal NATO member, its defense strategy intertwined with the US through NORAD. Canada has outsourced much of its defense to the US, a strategic decision, but one that creates dependency. Its military is designed to support US-led coalitions, making it hard to oppose Washington directly. Canada is safe under the American security umbrella but can't stray far. India, meanwhile, has pursued military self-reliance. It has the world's second-largest active military, a nuclear arsenal, and a growing domestic defense industry. India buys weapons from the US, France, Israel, and Russia, but also builds its own. The goal: never depend on any single country for security. Financially, Canada operates within the US dollar system. India is pushing to reduce dollar dependence, promoting the rupee in international trade. It's a long-term move to insulate itself from US sanctions and monetary policy. India is building a future where it calls its own shots. A country's response to pressure often reflects its leader's style. Trudeau's brand is multilateralism and diplomacy. He manages the US relationship with careful negotiation, not confrontation. His statements are firm but measured, disappointment, not outrage. It's the language of a junior partner seeking influence without rupture. For Canada, this pragmatic style preserves interests through skillful diplomacy. Modi, on the other hand, projects strength and unapologetic nationalism. His base responds to a muscular foreign policy. India first. When pressured, Modi's response is public defiance and appeals to national pride. His government pushes back quickly, signaling India won't be a passive player. Criticism from Washington is met with sharp retorts. For Modi, bowing to US pressure would be a political betrayal. India's leadership style is about sovereignty and strength, not accommodation. When the US turns up the heat, India doesn't fold. Its history, economic diversity, military independence, and nationalist politics create strong resistance. India has weathered sanctions before and emerged stronger. Nationalism is a powerful force. Any sign of caving to foreign pressure sparks public backlash. No Indian leader can afford to be seen as weak. This public sentiment gives the government cover to stand firm. But India isn't immune to pressure. It needs Western technology, capital, and the US as a counterweight to China. The paradox: India wants independence but values partnership with Washington. Diplomats must balance defiance with pragmatism. India will say no on core interests but may quietly compromise elsewhere. It won't bow, but it might bend on its own terms. This is principled pragmatism: protect autonomy, but navigate global realities. India's strategy is to resist, negotiate, and never submit. Will India bow like Canada to US power? No, their economies, histories, and national identities are worlds apart. Canada trades some autonomy for security and prosperity within the American order. When Washington pushes, Ottawa seeks the least painful compromise. It's a relationship built on dependency, a bow of necessity. India, forged in anti-colonial struggle, starts from resistance. Its diversified economy and independent military give it the tools to say no. For India, capitulation isn't an option. It seeks partnership, not patronage. India won't be a junior partner or follower. Its response is about engagement, not submission. But even the strongest must be flexible. The world is more complex and multipolar. India and the US will sometimes align, sometimes diverge. Compromise isn't weakness, it's strategic wisdom. India may make tactical concessions, but never submission. If there's ever a bow, it's a respectful nod between equals, not a gesture of subservience.